Hi guys, it's Paula. I hope you are doing well. This is going to be another update for the panning games. This has been a very fun project for me this year. I decided to focus on some of my never before used eyeshadow palettes, and sadly I have a lot of them. So if you missed the introduction, I put over 50 unused, never before worn on my eyes eyeshadow palettes into a box and randomly drew 24 as fast as I could, and I've been trying to get some use out of the 2 that I pick for each month every month. I'm not really setting any more expectation on myself than that, because really my focus is my Pan That palette and other eyeshadows that are in other projects, but I just want to be able to say that the palettes have been used, so even if I just use them once, I'm counting it as goal achieved for this project. And just to refamiliarize myself with some of the eyeshadow palettes that haven't been touched since I bought them, sadly, ever. So, last month my focus was on 2 palettes, the Makeup Revolution Fortune Favors the Brave, and one of my Smashbox small palettes from the holiday 2016 collection. I think this was 2015. So let me start with this palette. One of the things that I mentioned last month was that I was actually thinking that this might be a good palette for Pan That palette. There are some really, oh, look at my lap. There are some really nice, beautiful shades in here, but there are a ton of shades that I wasn't wowed by any means. And so I do see myself including some of these shades like individually in projects to hit pan and use them up, but I don't think I want to work on this whole palette as a single unit in a year for like a Pan That palette. Most of the eyeshadows I used were down here in these kind of cool tone, plummy shades, because I was working on a green shadow in my baby Pan That palette. I really didn't touch the greens or the blues at all. I was focused on another green shadow the whole month. So when I took a break from that green shadow, I wanted to work with these kind of shades down here. I tried these 2 both in my transition. This one, I watched a bunch of videos. I did a YouTube search of Fortune Favors the Brave and pulled up a bunch of old videos from like 2 years ago of people doing tutorials with this palette, people that I've never even heard of. So that was kind of interesting. But a lot of them would start with this shade, and on them it looked very pink. But on me, it just looked like a neutral brown. It really didn't show up very pink at all on me. This was beautiful. You guys know I love peach. The real standouts in this palette were these kind of marbleized baked shadows. These were the ones that were really good. So let me give you guys a couple swatches of those. This one right here. Any ones that had that like marbled veining through it, those were the baked ones, and those were the real shadows that were pleasures to work with. There they are right there. They're beautiful. Nice metallic shadows. You could wet them, you could foil them. So I thought those shadows were all really nice to work with, but the rest of them were just kind of okay. And I don't know if part of that's because my palette's a few years old and it's just not aging well or what, but it's okay. Like I said, I can see myself putting individual shadows into little seasonal projects to focus on, but I don't think I want to pan that next year for my Pan That palette. I did do a few looks with these palettes. Most of them ended up being very plummy looks. If you want to see how these shadows performed, these are the shadows I am using in my quick product review of the Essence Metal Shock eyeshadow. The other palette that I focused on was this small Smashbox palette. There's 6 eyeshadows and a blush. I ended up not using these 3 eyeshadows or this blush even once. I just was too focused on my Pan That palette, quite frankly. I really have been in the panning zone on my Pan That palette. So I didn't use these or these at all, but I did use this trio and I loved it. I think this is gorgeous. It is absolutely heavenly. The shadows are very pigmented. I had to kind of pull back the reins a little with these Smashbox shadows because the look can get out of hand quickly if I'm not careful, but it was fun. And once I got the hang of it, I loved it. They were just beautiful. I wish I had more time. Once again, I'm gonna be saying this every month, I know it, but I wish I had more time to play with these. It's like the month is over before I know it and it's time to put them back and I'm not ready. But at the same time, I'm so excited to be getting 2 new palettes to work with. So let's talk about those next. First of all, I decided to go with another one of the Smashbox palettes. This is different. Here's the first one from last month. Here's this one. Don't get confused. I'm gonna try not to get confused myself. But this one is more of a cool toned selection of shades, and that'll make sense in a minute when you see the other palette I decided to pair with it. So here's a very purpley blue and a taupey kind of purple lilac color. I love these colors. Obviously it does go with the hair, so I'm always in the mood for that. This is a very neutral trio again. Yeah, very neutral. And then this blush is more peachy pink. I'm probably not gonna get a chance to use this at all, but maybe I'll try and use it once. We'll see. So I'm throwing that in case I am looking for a cool toned purpley look. Because the other palette I decided to pick for this month is all warm tone, and that is my Naked Heat. I have never used this even once. It is brand new. I bought this last October, November. I mean, we're coming up on a year, maybe August. We're at the year mark and it's been sitting in my office, never used. Here it is. When I pulled this palette at the introduction video, I knew that this would be my October palette. I mean, you just look at this, and if you had to assign a month to this palette, I think we could all mutually agree that October is the month for this palette. So yeah, I'm very, very excited to work with this palette. I do hope to use it on its own for just some very orangey warm looks, but I'd also like to incorporate this with my Pan That palette and enjoy some combinations using the 2 together and see what I can create. Yeah, I am super excited to be bringing in 2 new palettes for this month, even though I'm sad to see the other 2 have to get rotated out so quickly. So that is my update for this month. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.